The what game?
She's been pestering folks all over town with this sunshine and happiness thing. Hearts and flowers. Enough to make you sick.
Hush up. I want to hear it.
Welcome everyone, I am your host Ashley, and today we are launching our first podcast, which is called Thought Spot. And I've kind of already been doing this with you guys a little bit here and there, where I do these longer videos, but this is the chance for you to just kind of pull out your headphones and get some other projects done, because I'm gonna ramble. And if you want to listen, you can listen. So there's not going to be a lot of like interesting things going on the screen, but it's just like a good thing to have auditorially. I've had a couple of my friends say, you know, I really like listening to your stuff, which is amazing that people listen to this, but I'm flattered and I'm honored, but people listen to this like when they're driving in the car or when they're doing housework or something like that. And I personally really like longer form podcasts. I think it helps slow down my brain, and it also helps me measure time to get projects done. So like watching a really short video is nice if I'm actually watching a video, but a lot of times, especially with YouTube and things, I like to just listen to stuff. So that's what I'm going to do here for you guys. So today I'm basically going to be doing just kind of a few thoughts from my head every week. And I think a lot of things. There's this song from Rhett and Link. It's called I Am a Thoughtful Guy. That's me. I just think all the time. I'm a philosopher by nature. I've always been that way. I've been that way since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. I was the kid who, if you asked me how to get home from, you know, like my friend's house, I would look at them and go, I have no idea. We drive, I daydream, I arrive. You know, so I was never one to like super pay attention to my surroundings, because I was in my head a lot of the time. So, and that can be a strength and a weakness, but I think a lot, and a lot of times I'm like, oh man, this is such a great thought. I need to go and share this with someone, or like, I wish I could send out a software update for thoughts, and now I kind of can't. So this is like a little software update for everyone's thinkers. So a few things that I've been thinking about lately are just kind of some basic ways to generate more joy in your life. And let's be honest, like sometimes life is not very joyful. It's not happy, and it's tough. But if you have a better outlook on life, that can really help frame your world. And I firmly believe that I will be in heaven with Jesus, with everybody that I love eventually. And so even on my very worst days, I can always frame it that way. I can wake up and go, well, you know, this is as bad as it's going to get for me, so it's not that bad. You know, even if it was horrible, even if it was awful, and like, you know, I was in a concentration camp, it's still going to end, right? Like, it's going to end at some point. So that's like, you know, if you start kind of low like that, you're like, okay, you know, yeah, that's my base. My baseline is like, if things are awful and horrible, this is the worst that's ever going to happen to me. It can only get better from me here, right? So some other things that I think just help generate joy are actually facing your vices. It was really interesting. I'm going to do a longer video on this because my friends have requested it, but I did a long fast, which I'm easing back into right now, but I did an 11-day fast. I was planning on doing 30 days actually, but I was going to go for 15 and then see if I could do 30, but I ended up having an episode where I threw up for like 8 hours in the middle of the week because I drank a mineral drink that you're supposed to only take with food, and I totally spaced that. And I was drinking water like a fiend, so I had a lot in my tummy, and that was like one of the worst. You think you know pain until you experience pain in a new way, and you're like, wow, this really hurts. Like, if you've ever been punched like right here, right where like your sternum, and like right, not your sternum, but like where your windpipe area is, and you get the wind like almost knocked out of you. I felt like I had been punched right there for hours, like for like 24 hours. And then I was throwing up and my esophagus was burned, and I was like, this is pain, but it's okay. Like, I've been through so many different things with pain. That's the other thing too, is like if you've experienced a lot of physical or emotional or, you know, pain, when you're out of pain, you're like, oh, I feel so good. So it makes you more grateful. But anyway, I had tried to do, I was pushing that fast because I've been trying to heal up my back as much as I can. And it was interesting because I felt so much joy not eating. And the reason is, I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but like when you clear out your system from anything that is toxic, you feel really, really good. And a lot of the things that we human beings like to do are kind of toxic for us. And we get hooked on things, you know, we get addicted to things. And the things themselves might not necessarily be bad, right? Like, I mean, any tool that we have can be used for good or bad. Like, right, food is good, sex is good, you know, TV can even be good. It can be, you know, educational. But like, if you do things too much, then it's not good because you're being driven by a vice. You're being driven by a bodily desire instead of being driven by your mind and your soul. And so it doesn't make you very happy because you feel weak when you if you constantly give in to having what you want all the time. You just feel really weak, and that doesn't make you feel happy because you were created to be strong. So I think a lot of times people come at this the wrong way, where they're like, they try to guilt people into doing the right thing, but it's really about being brave and strong. It's not about like, you weren't made to just sit around and like just have everything handed to you on a platter, because once you do that, you're not happy at all. Like, you know, unless you're working towards something and you're like, you are generating something of benefit for other people, or even you're just making yourself stronger by saying no to something, that makes you really happy because you're getting stronger. You're getting stronger in your spirit, in your mind, in your body. And being strong is what makes you happy. And not that, some people take this too far the other way, where they're like, they go to like hating their bodies and like self-flogging and like, you know, just like never giving themselves a break, and, you know, being kind of tormentive to themselves. That's not strength either. That's being addicted to pain, you know, and being addicted to pain is its own problem. So it's not about never giving yourself a break or never enjoying something, but like if you had chocolate cake every single day of your life, you would not like chocolate cake anymore. If you told yourself that you were never going to have chocolate cake ever again, and you really liked chocolate cake, and, you know, it was something you weren't allergic to, like, I know, like, you know, I have allergies and stuff, but like, let's say it's something that you could have, but you just told yourself, I'm never going to let myself enjoy that ever again. You're like sucking the joy out of your life. Just have cake on a special occasion, you know what I mean? Like, it's balance in all things, you know. Be strong most of the time, and then when you decide to take a break, you're really going to enjoy it. That's why we work for 6 days, you know, or for the 5 days, and kind of do like your, you know, personal work on a Saturday or whatever, and then you should rest one day. Like, you know, just it doesn't have to be like you must, you know, do it on a Sunday or what. You know, people get weird about that, but it doesn't matter. It's just take a break. Let yourself rest, and then the reason is you can boot up and go the rest of the time. If you leave your computer on all the time or your phone on all the time, it doesn't work as well, right? You have to give it a break. It's the same with your body. You can't go forever. And then another thing I've been thinking about is the really simple joys that you have when you are a kid and you're thinking about the things that you want to build or the things you want to do when you get older. You may not be able to do all the things that you wanted to do as a kid, but you can do a lot of things. You know, you can drive yourself places. Most of us can. You can walk to places. You can meet new people. And I think that there's this excitement that we have as children where we're thinking, when I get older, I'm going to build, you know, this type of a house, and I'm going to have, you know, as a kid, I grew up with like a trampoline in my house and a balance beam. I was very spoiled. My mom loved us to death, and so our dining room was not formal at all. It was a gymnasium, and we loved that. I absolutely loved that. My mom was not very conventional, and so I've always thought, you know, I would love to have like a rock wall or something for like my nieces and nephews to climb on, and I would love to have, you know, like a library and all these different things. And it's not necessarily that you're going to get all those things that you want. It's about creating something beautiful with what you have. Because I think some people get really distracted by like, I want this particular, let's just say a car, like I want this particular car. It's not about like chasing down that particular car, and if you don't get that car, you're going to throw a fit. It's, I want something that's beautiful, that makes me feel nice, that I want to work for. And so when I get it, I'm going to really appreciate it. And it's like, it's not, I don't want to say spoiling yourself, but giving yourself like the permission to have fun in life, you know? And that doesn't mean that you're always spending money. It just means that you're thinking outside the box. You know, think outside the box. What's something that you really enjoyed as a kid? Like, did you love running barefoot, you know, by the beach? Go do that. You know what I mean? Do you want to like build a fort, you know, before you go to bed and like, you know, bring your laptop in there and like watch a movie on a weekend? Do that. You know, did you ever want to make waffles in the shape of Mickey Mouse? Do that. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many different ways to have fun. And people are always just so bored, and they're so, you know, it makes me think of that clip from Sherlock. What is it in your liking, your funny little brains? It must be so boring. But like, think, people aren't taught to be creative. Be creative, you know? Have you ever wanted to just like turn one of your walls into a canvas? If you're an adult, hey, guess what? You can do that. You can go get some paint from the hardware store and just like go crazy. You can just have it a splatter wall if you want, you know? But people lose sight of this. So don't lose sight of that. Just have fun with life, you know? If as a kid you liked to dig holes in the yard, if you're an adult and you buy a place with a yard, you could dig a hole as deep as you wanted to. You could, I mean, there's just so many things you can do for fun just because you've always wanted to do it. Like, did you ever want to build a tree fort, or like, did you ever want to, like, you know, be an astronaut? You could like build a pretend rock. I don't know, just do something fun. Do something outside of the box that is fun. And it's really good if you can do it with people too. Like, have some things that you do by yourself. Like, there are certain kid movies that I watch that nobody watches with me that I think are fun and hilarious. Like, I know it's going to sound silly, but I love like Lego movie humor. Like, not every single one of them, but I like a lot of them. And my family doesn't get that. And my friends aren't going to understand that. But I like the Lego movies. And so sometimes, like, when I used to house sit every year, and I would sit and quilt by hand and watch my Lego movies, and that made me happy, and I like doing it, you know what I mean? So find something that is like, that's fun and good for you to do, and do that, and have fun with it, and just, you know, think like a kid who is all of a sudden grown up and has like the you know, the superpowers of being an adult, but like, don't lose your imagination of being a child. And then the other thing is, get tired of yourself. Like, you know, if you are standing in your way, my friend Michaela from Maison de Châtillon, I'm going to link her video. She did a great video on this, talking about getting out of your own way. And this is something that I learned from the YMCAs, and I did a lot of training on how to prepare people for change, because not everybody's ready for change at the same time, and they're usually not ready for it when you want them to be. They're ready for it when they're ready for it. And so you have like the readiness to change scale. So you have someone who's contemplating change, but they're not ready. You know, there's like people who are not ready to change at all, people who are contemplating a change, people who are taking the first step to change but don't quite know what they're doing. Then you have someone who's making a change, you have someone who's maintaining a change, and then you have a relapse. You know, there's a whole system to understanding how to make a change. And a lot of times we self-sabotage, right? We're chronically procrastinating, or we always put off doing a project, or we go to bed with things messy, or you know, we never call people back, or we are bad with communication, or whatever it is, right? And we just keep sabotaging ourselves, and that sabotage is comfortable because we're used to it. I used to work in an office. I never want to work in an office again. I will do it if I am absolutely pushed to, but it is not my strong suit. If anybody knows me, I don't like paperwork. I don't like tedious small tasks, and I think mostly the reason is like I'm in chronic pain, so tedious tasks, even like just doing a simple like ordering something on, you know, like the computer, if I have to think about it with like my math brain, it's like it just doesn't happen. It's very, very hard for me. But when I was working there, I just couldn't, for whatever reason, and I was doing everything. Like it was a dance studio where I did cleaning. I cleaned the studio, cleaned the owner's house, did all their like what do you call that? Not tax work. I did that too, but what was the other thing? Finance stuff. I did all the checks. I did all the QuickBooks. I did all the advertising. I did all the newsletter writing. And the thing was, when I was looking at details for things, like especially in newsletters, we would take old newsletters and then update them. And this sounds so simple now, and I would get so frustrated because it was a simple task. But the problem was, I would go through it, and there would be like dates and things that needed to be changed and words that needed to be changed. And so I would go over it and over and over it, and then I would submit it. And then every time that I would submit, I swear there was some kind of error. And it just drove me crazy. But then after a while, I got used to failing at these things. And then it was like, I just kind of, in my heart, I was like, I'm just not good at this. And then once you tell yourself you're not good at something, you kind of let yourself fail. So I've really worked hard on, when I'm doing my own personal administration or whatever, to not let myself fail at something or not give myself the permission to fail. You're going to fail. You have to be okay with failure. You're always going to fail at something. If you're not failing, you're not living. But if you give yourself the permission to fail constantly without saying, like, you're going to improve on this, or walk away. Like, there's some tasks where, like, if someone were to ask me to be a math teacher, and actually there is some math now that I have gotten down where I could actually teach it because I was so horrible at it and I really, really worked hard at it. But if someone were to say, would you teach this class? I would say no. The reason is because I am not going to be good at teaching that. I'm going to fail the students. I'm never going to be a very good math teacher, so no, this is a task that I shouldn't do. And that's kind of what I've chosen to do with, like, some office stuff. It's like there's certain things that I'm not good at this. I'm not going to do this. You don't ask a football player to substitute for being a ballerina. There's certain things that you're not going to be good at, and that's okay. Recognize your limitations. But when it comes to things like something that you should just kind of have a skill at, like even just a little bit, like knowing how to, just keep like let's say basic maintenance on your car, or knowing how to like respond to an email, or knowing how to interact with your friends and family members, things like that. There's very basic things that you should know a little bit about, kind of everything, to make you a well-rounded person. And if you are constantly sabotaging yourself in areas where you really should be better at it just as a person, you're going to feel bad about yourself. It's another way that you're going to feel weak, and then you're not going to move past that barrier that you've set for yourself. So you need to get tired of failure. You need to just get tired of it. You need to get sick of yourself. Like a kid who's eaten way too much candy and they just never want to see it again. That's kind of what you have to do for yourself. You have to get really, really tired of yourself. And once you do that, then you can say, I am totally and completely sick of this, and I would like to move on. So once you hit that spot, it's like this sweet spot where you're saying, I've already failed so much, I don't really care about failure anymore, I care about success. Because a lot of people, they either fear two things. You can fear failure, and then once you've hit the failure button so many times, like, I'm just tired of failing. I've already done this so many times that I don't want to fail anymore. Then you're more ready to hit the success button. And like a lot of times, people are fearful of success. I was fearful of success, and there's still certain things where I'm fearful of success because you think, well, what happens if I lose it, right? But you've already lost so much. You know what that's like, so you don't have to imagine what it's like to fail. You don't have to imagine what it's like to hit rock bottom. Once you've hit that spot, then you're like, well, this is as bad as it gets, so here I am. I guess there's really nothing else for me to do but go up. And if you choose to stay stuck down at the bottom, then you're just kind of giving in to despair, which is just, it's no way to live. You're not living at that point. You're just existing. You're in very basic survival mode. And you can choose to stay there if you want, but there's no joy, love, or life there, so why do that? I mean, it's just kind of, I don't know. There's no reason to do that. You can always improve a little bit at something. And I'm just going to finish up today with a little quick story. I would love to sometimes have maybe one of my siblings or just a friend pop on to give their little story, because I think stories are fun. But I wanted to share with you guys this story of the day that I saw everyone as beautiful. And what happened to me, and this happens a lot, is when I realize something, I have an epiphany. It doesn't slowly over many years, something dawns on me. It's like something just hits me. And I think that that's how it is for a lot of people. People want to act like knowledge is something that's gradual, but when you see the light, you just kind of see the light and you can move on, It doesn't always have to be this slow, aching process. But when I was younger, I was raised in a more religious household, and I'm not religious at all anymore. I love God, but I'm not religious in the way that people think of it, where you have rituals and you have to attend things and you have to be accepted by a group and everything. I just don't do that anymore. But I'm a rule follower by nature. Like, I'm a compliant person by nature, but I'm also very stubborn. It's this. I'm a paradox. I'm an INFJ, so I'm a complete paradox. Everyone will, like, they'll think you're one way, and then all of a sudden you're like, no, I'm actually like this, and they're like, oh, that's unexpected. So, I was a rule follower and compliant because I wanted to please people, but I was also incredibly stubborn and very strong-willed, and I have a very strong sense of, like, what's right, and that can sometimes get me in trouble because it would make me be more of a judge instead of a merciful person and seeing everybody kind of in the same boat. I was someone who very much put people at levels and tried to put myself on levels, and I just remember really feeling very strongly. I was in 3rd grade, and I had a lot of pride. I just really did. I just thought I was, like, better than everybody. And I'm like 8 years old, running around thinking I'm better than the world, And there were, like, I was always kind. It wasn't like I was mean, but, like, if you are that kind of a person, you know in your heart when you're just being kind of a snob and a prick. You know what I mean? And this is kind of on the tail end of a different story, I guess, because there was one day where I was sitting in my room. My mom had been talking to me for a long time. She's like, you think that you're better than your sister, and you think you're better than everybody at school, and, like, you're just not. You're just a person, and you're not anything great. You are, like, you're amazing in God's eyes, and He loves you, but He loves everybody. It's like and you can't make yourself, be great or small. You just are, and I don't know what it was. I just had so much pride. It's human nature, you know what I mean? It's human nature. And so I would always kind of cloister myself off somewhere. And I remember one day I was reading in my room, and I heard my family downstairs, and they were all having fun, and they were laughing. And I was reading my little book, and I was just being by myself because I was just doing that. I don't know. I don't know. Like, when you think about things later after, you've had your light moment, you're like, why was I doing that? Making myself miserable for what purpose? But anyway, so I was sitting there, and I was just being proud and stubborn and whatever, and I was going to read my book and be better than everybody else. And I just thought, I want to be with everybody else. They're having fun, and I want to be with everybody else. So I closed that book, and I went downstairs, and that began a process of change in my life. And when I was in about, I think it was like 6th or 7th grade, we were still going to church at that time, and I was driving, or not I was driving, but I was being driven home, and I've always loved being able to think in the car. Like, there's just something about the whir of the wheels and just, like, watching the world go by. It's very peaceful, and it's very romantic. And I was sitting there, and I was just talking to God, and I was like, I want to see everybody the way that you see them, because I see from such a limited point of view, and I know that I can still be judgmental about people, and I don't want to have that in me anymore. I don't want to be running around condemning people or shunning people for whatever reason. That's not your heart. I don't want to be like that. And I looked out the window, and I saw this girl, and she was like an emo girl, and normally that would have been like someone that I would kind of have feared when I was younger. And all of a sudden I just saw her as, like, so beautiful. I just saw her as, like, it was like I saw her eyes and her spirit and everything, and I was like, oh wow. And then I started looking at, like, all the people that we were passing by, and even the people on the road in their cars, and I was just like, humans are amazing. Like, humans are, they have sentience, and they think they can create things, and it was like I was seeing people for the first time. It was so bizarre, and it only lasted for like a few minutes, but I always remembered that feeling because I really felt like God gave me a glimpse about just how he sees us as, like, with this just amazing potential. And you know, if you look at anything, if you look at the houses that we build or the art that we make or the music that we make, it's like how is this possible? And we just take it for granted all the time. How amazing it is that we are even alive. Like, it's amazing that you survived your childhood. You know, and for some of us even more than others. It's just the feats that humans have done to get to where we are. Like, we have air conditioning now. I mean, like, can you imagine what the Romans would have thought of that? You know, it's just, anyway, people are amazing. And then when you see people's souls and like how they can just radiate and be so full of light, and like when you really look into someone's eyes and they have really clear eyes, and you see how God made them to be. He made them to be beautiful. You just get kind of blown away. And that's just seeing like one or two or three or a few people. You know, God sees everybody. That's just so overwhelming. Like, imagine the data bank of your thoughts. That you've thought a lot of thoughts, and you've come up with a lot of ideas, and you've had a lot of experiences, and you've had a lot of beautiful moments, right? And a lot of sorrowful ones too. And then you just magnify that by, you know, like millions and upon millions. All of the, like, the wonderful ideas that we have, and all, you know, all, it's so overwhelming. But then it all boils down back to one person and how much God loves each individual person. And when He looks at us, He sees our potential to be so beautiful. And if you are a believer, He doesn't see you as where you are trapped in time right now. He sees you as you are in heaven. You know, He sees you as you are already. And that's just so cool. Like, you know, He's not constrained by time. He doesn't see our mistakes. He doesn't see any of that. You know, He'll help us in our mistakes because He enters into time with us, but but He's not constrained by that. You know, we're like little ants on a ruler, and God's hand is like, boom, on the ruler. So it's like, it's, you know, we're like, well, where are you in time? And God's like, I'm everywhere. You know, there's no limitation for me. We have to live out time, but He doesn't. So anyway, but I just saw everyone as so beautiful. I really saw the beauty in people. I feel like I wish I had more words to describe that. I thought I would, honestly, but I really don't. It's just, I saw everyone as being beautiful. And that doesn't mean that we all live up to the potential of being that beautiful person that God wanted us to be, but it's always there. There's, you know, no matter how, it just, if you're still alive, even if you're on your deathbed, there's like this, there's that divine spark in you that God made to be beautiful, and you can start being that at any point in your life. It doesn't matter about all the previous things, you know. It's that just that one little tiny piece of time that matters when you make your decision about where you're going to go and what you're going to do and what your soul wants. You know, like the soul's turning. That's what matters. But I just saw everyone as so beautiful, and it was a wonderful day because I felt like I was closer to the heart of God. So yeah, I really have enjoyed talking with you guys today. I feel like probably next week I'm going to be a little bit more organized, but I like the idea of just sharing a few thoughts and then maybe a story, and maybe reading a story or something, reading a poem. I don't know. This will be anything you want it to be. So I will see you guys next week, and thanks for watching. I hope you guys had fun. Yes?